G'day folks, and welcome to this introduction to Case Blue and to scenario 7.6, which is the 29th of June 1942 Southern Sector. This is effectively the start of Blau, Case Blue, and it is the southern half. I'm playing this on Vassal. Learning OCS, I find Vassal great for being able to track movement, being able to undo movement where I've made mistakes, being able to record and go through things I've done. As I mentioned in previous videos, I will try to take my time to rewatch what I've done and pick up mistakes that I've made, because I am learning and I am making mistakes. So do keep that in mind. In this video, I just want to provide an overview of the scenario and talk about the parameters and what's going to be happening. I am learning OCS and I really wanted to jump into this big scenario. I really wanted to try out full Blau, Case Blue, and this scenario. So Vassal, to my knowledge, so this Vassal module combines Case Blue, Guderian's Blitzkrieg, Crimea, Enemy at the Gates, older scenarios, all into one. So you can see here Case Blue training scenario, smaller scenario, larger scenarios, Guderian's Blitzkrieg, Crimea add-on scenarios. There are a lot of scenarios in this Vassal module. I am playing the Case Blue, so you can see here it combined 7.5 and 7.6. There's no way within this module just to play the southern scenario. So you load up 7.5 the north and 7.6 the south combined, and it gives you this massive map. You can see Moscow here, it goes further north there, all the way up to the Rybinsko Reservoir in the north. Way up there, so huge map footprint, and Kalinin, too big. So what I've done is, okay, about one. That's my autosave. So I do have my autosave function running, and because I hadn't put a save file in yet, it has saved, and I just put the save file in. It'll now autosave. Okay, so I've divided the map into those two halves. So this dotted line here, the X's mark that barrier. Anything north on that line or north is part of that northern sector. I'll be playing from this line south. Now I'm still tinkering with some of these units here. I don't think are part of this southern scenario. I do have my scenario books with me, so I need to kind of. I've also got the digital scenario books. So I've got the scenario books here, but I've also downloaded the PDF versions, and they're easier to search. So I'm searching through the scenario just to find out which of these units aren't included. I know these Russians here aren't technically included, and some of these other German units may need to move as well, because the line does put back to the west towards Bryansk. Okay, so what I want to do in this video is talk about the scenario, talk about parameters, talk about what I'm going to be trying to achieve. The most important thing for me is learning how to manage all the resources and the infrastructure on a large front. OCS Korea was good for learning the basics, but it didn't really push me in terms of supplies, and because the front line was so unusual early in sort of the Korean War, I wasn't really learning about frontline situations. So I want to learn how to break through a front line and how to form a front line and learn about strategic reserves and offensive reserves and the like. And that's why I've dove into this really big scenario. So let me tell you about this scenario itself. If you have a copy of Case Blue, you'll find it on about, what is it, page, let me get to it, because I'm using my digital copy. Well, hold on, let me actually, there's so many things to consult here. It is page 48, 7.6, 29th of June. Okay, so page 48. and look, I can share what this actually looks like. Here we go. This is the 29th of June, 1942, the German summer offensive, Blau 1. Yeah, map area, blah, blah, blah. Set up order, German and Russian. First player is German. We play through until May 1943, 97 turns. Okay. All this setup information, but basically my understanding is there are actually very limited scenario-specific rules, which is great. In effect, we have the case blue specific rules, which I have here, and we are applying, I believe, the strategic victory points. So I think the way this works is we basically tally victory at the end of 1941, and we determine who controls Sevastopol and Rostov, and then the Germans will make a strategic choice whether they go for Stalingrad or the oil fields, and strategic victory points for 1943 are based on control of those objectives. So if the Germans choose Stalingrad and they capture Stalingrad, that's a strategic victory point. If not, if the Russians hold it, yeah, basically that's how it worked out. It's going to be difficult to solo this because I'll know what that strategic choice is. I'll figure out how to deal with that down the track. I may, in effect, delay that German choice just to kind of, in a way, hide it from myself, or maybe I just dive at it and make it quite public. I don't know yet. Okay, so I want to look more closely at the front and what we're dealing with. So we're looking at, here's Tula here. So we're looking at the situation south, effectively, of Tula. Here's Orel, and I guess looking at short-term objectives. Or let me talk about the broader objectives first. The German goal here is to hit the Don River, to break through northwest of Voronezh and southwest of Voronezh, skirt around these mountains and hit the Don River. Right. So objective number one is reaching the Don River in the north, near Voronezh. Voronezh itself is not necessarily an objective. The Don River is the objective. Hitting that Don River near Voronezh. Then, turning south. The next step, how that happens, how this southern turn happens is yet to be resolved. It depends on how everything else goes. So I want to push through Novyoskul, Ostrogozhsk, and then, look, next objective depends on what happens. Milarovo is on my mind. It is so often the second objective of the Germans in these types of scenarios. You've got these forces driving from the north, using the Don on their left flank, and then swinging south to Milarovo and trying to cut off Soviet retreats from this area. It's a rail hub as well, north-south, and rail from the west. So if the Germans can come down here and cut that off, they'd be doing very well to cut off all the Russian forces in this area. But they need this southern drive to go well. So crossing the Donets River somewhere through here and meeting up with those forces from the north coming through, the open plains. And then, so we've got, objective one, hit the Don River. Objective two, drive south. Objective 2.5, somewhere around Milarovo, link up with the forces driving from the south. From there, look, now we're getting into a lot of what ifs. What happens next? And, do we drive east? Do we drive south? I would really like, what I want to happen is to cross the Don, capture Rostov, and just explore the Crimean, the Caucasus theatre. I would like to see how operations go in the south down here. So I'm already kind of leaning towards here just because I want to explore this environment and the supply challenges and the fight for the oil fields, etc. I am already kind of less interested in a drive on Stalingrad, just because I'm. The German objective was the oil fields. They wanted Grozny and Maikop. Let me point those out as well. Here's Krasnodar here, key city in the south. Here's Maikop, southeast of Krasnodar, and there are 3 oil field locations. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is their primary, well, one of their 2 primary objectives of Fort Blau was to capture those oil fields. And then as we head out to the east a little bit further, we've got Grozny down here and 3 more oil fields. So Maikop and Grozny are going to be my objectives. That's really what I want to sort of try to pursue from the very start, just because I want to see how all this goes. Too often, I think, in Fort Blau games, Stalingrad is a distraction, as it was to Hitler, or this crossing the Don is a distraction in the north, which is what happened last time I played Stalingrad 42. So I want to try to focus my energy on crossing the Don in the south, getting into the Don steppes, getting towards Krasnodar, clearing the Kerch Straits, etc. Okay, so I'm kind of setting those objectives for my gaming for the Germans from the start. That said, I want to be flexible. So if the Russians throw everything behind the Don, they just pull back, I'm going to change my mind. We'll see. Okay, so getting the units back on the map. Let's start to, so as I said, hit the Don. How is that going to happen? So as I said, the map goes, quite a fair, there's an autosave happening. It goes quite a fair up north of Arel, etc. This, though, is where my focus is, around this area, 13th, 55th Corps. Here we go. We've got the 4th Panzer Group based here around Shekri, and we've got this rail line leading from Kursk. You can see Kursk off to the west here. This is going to be the focus for my northern drive along this road to Stary Oskol, but also I'd like to get around these. Now look, I don't. These are hills. That's not rough, is it? It's hard to tell. No, it might be rough. That is rough terrain. And what is rough terrain going to do? Combat terrain effects chart, rough terrain. It's going to halve my armor if it is rough. Halve my armor, half my mech. Okay. So, ideally getting around those to the north, clearing the railroad, starting that rail conversion, because there's not a lot of rail up in the north here. If I can then clear the rail to Stary Oskol, and then using this north-south rail line along through Novsky Oskol, Valuki, and clearing the Oskol River. And then the southern drive. And so looking down the south here, what have we got? 3rd Motorized Division. And scattering of breakdown battalions. Further south, okay, we've got Hungarians. I think these are Hungarians. Yeah, Hungarians in Kharkov. And here we go. 23rd Panzer Division. 29th Motorized Division. prepping for that southern drive through Veluki, northeast towards Ostrogosk, towards the Don. All right, so they're not going to just try and focus on driving east or southeast. They focus on linking up with this northern force, a northern drive to the Don, a southern drive to the Don, linking up here near Svoboda. Okay, that's priority number 1. That's my main focus. Okay. So again, we have got 47th Panzer Group, 24th Panzer Division, Panzer Corps, 48th Panzer Corps, 16th Motorized Division. I'm trying to get a sense of all the formations here. 24th Panzer Division, 60th, here they all are. 11th Panzer Division, 9th Panzer Division, 13th Panzer Division. There's more than I realised, all sitting here. And I need to think about how these forces are going to break through. It's kind of, as I said, I'm wrapping my head around not just learning the system, but around how the system works to how you use these rules to get things done. So, as I said, you've got the basic movement combat phase, then you've got the exploitation phase, and again, I will be using the OCS turn summary. So this is really a great resource. You just work through it, so breakout, movement, etc. There's also a really great, I found this. This is Case Blue, Lessons Learned by Chip Saltman, Al Murphy, Curtis Bear, April 2014. Some really great information here about various strengths and weaknesses of the Axis and Soviet forces. So I'm sort of drawing on those as well to try and learn some broader strategic lessons. Okay, so that's the primary number 1. Here we go, 23rd, 3rd Panzer, 29th, etc. At some stage, and I don't know when, so then we've got the Oskil River defences, and I don't want to push these too hard. We've got Romanians here. The idea is really not to push in this area. If the Soviets want to pull back, they can pull back. I don't think there are any restrictions, unless I've missed them. I don't think there are any restrictions on Soviets being forced to hold the line. There is some Stalin no retreat rules, which I kind of need to think about. That's 1941, so no, I don't need to worry about that at all. There's a lot of option rules, which I'm not using. Okay, so very little activity throughout here early, but at some stage I'll need to think about the Mias River, crossing the Mias River, not just driving on Rostov, keeping Rostov in mind, but also pushing north towards, in the general direction of Milarovo, because I want to be able to swing north, get across the Don here somewhere, Donetsk, sorry, not the Don, Donetsk, and then meet up with these forces coming from the north. That's sort of a stage 1B. And to support that, we have in this vicinity quite a few forces. 16th Panzer Division, 14th Panzer Division, quite a lot of Italian forces here. D'Aosta Division, a couple of various various formations, and decent strength SS, 5th SS Division formations. They have some strong divisions as well. I mean, look at that. That's the 73rd, 125th. What's hard is, like, there's a fog of war in OCS. You can only inspect the top unit, but you know, it's hard to check stacking. Like, there's a stack here of 3 units, but I wouldn't know that unless I kind of hover over it. So it's hard to maintain the fog of war when playing solo. Yeah, it's hard to know. All right, so eventually crossing over here and finding a crossing of the Donets. Okay. Look, that's as far as my thinking has gotten at this stage. There are a range of case blue / Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2 specific rules. Enemy at the gates. That apply. Nothing really too onerous. There's of course railway, because we're looking at a multi-title scenario. There are differing rail caps, and you use the rail caps based on the destination. There's special rules for trace supply using roads. So this scenario begins before the 1st of August, so the Axis can use all secondary roads for trace supply in a special area. What else? There's what else? Cheap Russian infantry. There is special weather rules. So whenever the weather changes, there's special rules that are introduced. German rules for fortresses, which I don't think I'll be using until perhaps much later in the scenario. A couple of various special Axis units, special German alert units for when the Soviets declare a massive assault. There are Soviet rules for massive assault, which is going to be one of their most valuable rules when they start to think about the potential for a counterattack. The Soviets have rules for seaborne assaults as well. I really don't know if those kind of circumstances are ever going to arise. Luftwaffe can make hip shoots. The Soviets cannot. The Soviets are also somewhat limited in their fighter sweeps, barrages, and train busing missions. They have to be close to their air bases. Yeah, what else? Look, nothing too onerous, really. I'm not too concerned about the title-specific rules. My main consideration is how do I break a front? How do I break this front open? How do I exploit? Do I crack this open with the infantry? Do I move this infantry up, put these in reserve, and where is it? Here we go. So yeah, do I put everything in, put all these forces in reserve mode? Are they just my reserves? Half movement. Is that the idea? That, yeah, these are used for breakthrough. Or do I try and get an overrun? Like, again, these are. I shouldn't. It's hard to know where the stacks are. So that's going to be the first. And again, I will be making huge mistakes here. Fewer rules errors, I hope. More tactical, strategic, operational errors. I'll be doing things wrong, like not setting my reserves up appropriately, not having a strategic reserve, not overrunning when I should be overrunning, things like that. Just making poor decisions. But I want to throw myself kind of in the deep end, confront myself with those kind of situations when I need to make those decisions. Um, and learning from those mistakes. So this may go poorly. For Blau may stop before we even reach the Don River. I would not be too surprised if I don't reach the Don. Yep, it's not far. It's just there. It's priority number one. It's the first thing that should happen. But I'm a rookie, and that means it's harder. I think it's gonna be harder for the Germans to attack than it is for the Soviets to defend. From the Soviet point of view, all right, spoken a lot about German plans. What are the Soviet plans? Try to survive, try to pull back, try not to get surrounded. I mean, a lot of For Blau games sort of, particularly Stalingrad 42, create situations where the Soviets are surrounded, cut off, wiped out. And historically, the Russians pulled back pretty successfully from this area. Small pockets cut off, but it wasn't the vast outcircling that we saw in 1941. The withdrawal here was relatively successful. So can the Soviets replicate that? And how? Look at these movement rates; they are shocking. Can they do it in the face of these fast-moving, mechanized Axis forces? So pulling back, surviving. Blocking the rail, trying to hold key points like Milarovo and Starobelsk. Wherever there is a sort of a road rail nexus, Rososh, obviously the Don River, trying to hold the Don River, slow down the Germans as much as possible, maybe, and wait for more reinforcements to arrive. Try and hold Rostov for as long as possible, little things like that. As I said, folks, just to reiterate, learning OCS and learning this scenario and fumbling my way through, trying to make as few errors as possible and try to learn how to use the rules to get this offensive going. So, I'm about to start. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more information on this scenario. Take care, folks.